Walking through this shopping mall in Mumbai, India's biggest city, it's easy to see just how fast the country is developing. Compared to the estimated 3% growth the United States had last year, India's GDP growth was 9%, and some expect next year's numbers to be just as high. But this rapid growth isn't everywhere in India. Directly across the street from this crowded mall was a much different type of neighborhood.
And on this side of the street, we saw all of these kind of set up shacks where people basically live. And it seems to be that they earn a living off of collecting trash and recycling it, because if you look at all of the bags that are piled up, it looks like they just pretty much collect junk. Can I come inside?
Yeah, okay.
How many people live in this home?
Yes. Seven.
This man told me he earned 3,000 rupees a month, which is about $73 US.
So if you look around, you'll see that the shelter is made up of a bunch of different materials. You'll see corrugated plastic, you'll see black tarp, torn up plastic, and things with a lot of holes in it, basically, so it doesn't really shelter, it just kind of does the job. If you look just across the way, across the water here, people seem to have set up permanent housing, and you'll see that the piles of trash are much larger. But the ironic thing about this entire community is that it's right at the foot of a giant high-rise apartment building, and you can see more high-rises not too far away in the distance.
One of Mumbai's biggest industries is called Bollywood, India's film business. Its movies are seen all over the developing world, and it creates a glamorous social life for Mumbai. One of Bollywood's biggest stars is Rahul Bose. He also does humanitarian work and speaks out about social awareness.
The most important thing to remember is that there is no one India. The social tension, the economic disparities, and the cultural division has never been greater in our history.
India is a country of over 1 billion people, and 25% of them live below the poverty line. In Mumbai, we visited Dharavi, the second largest slum in the world after the Kibera slums in Africa. Our guide was the head of a social service agency.
Can you talk a little bit about the number of people living in slums in Mumbai?
Yeah, it's almost about 55% of Mumbai's population, and this would account for 6.5 to 7.8 million people who live in slums. And there are about 57,000 families who still live in slum in Dharavi on roughly 535 acres of land. Even middle-income people, the so-called middle-income people, have to live in slums.
You talk about some of the sewage problems. I mean, right next to us is just a cesspool of sewage water.
Sanitation is also extremely poor. As you can see, there are open cesspools, open sewerage lines. Very few homes have running water. First of all, Mumbai has a water supply problem, which hopefully over the next few years it will get solved. But slum dwellers are particularly hard hit. They get water which has to be shared. In my opinion, it's not safe drinking water, but in very many ways I think they've become immune to some of the diseases that the water can carry, and yet there are a lot of waterborne diseases that they will be subject to.
When people think of slums, they don't really think of business, economy, or any type of income generation or way to make a living, but that's not the case here, is it?
No, in fact, when you go around, you'll find there's a tremendously thriving economy in Dharavi. They're generating in the region of almost about $700 million worth of economy in Dharavi.
One of the government's main goals is to make India slum-free by the year 2020. One way it's trying to do that is by creating alternate housing for slum residents.
These buildings are all housing developments that have been put up to house people who once lived in slums, but this is now their permanent home. And we're actually going to visit a resident who lives here.
This woman had lived in a slum for 35 years until she moved here.
And if you look out this window, You can see a slum, and that's the same slum that this woman lived in before she moved here. Can she tell us how living here is different from living over there?
क्या क्या फ़र्क आपको मालूम पड़ा है यहाँ पे आकर रहने से?
अच्छा है, तकलीफ नहीं है, पड़ोसी के कुछ नहीं है, आराम के साथ है, पानी भी नहीं, सब कुछ ठीक है.
It's convenient. She doesn't have wrangles with the neighbors. Water supply is regular, and there's a private toilet and bathroom.
Did she have a TV in the slum?
बांद्रीकरवाड़ी में टीवी था घर में? Yes, absolutely.
But right now, there aren't the resources nor the capacity to relocate every slum dweller in India, and more people from the countryside arrive every day.
These are not very different from the people who migrate to countries like United States from other parts of the world. In the same way, from villages, people migrate into cities like Mumbai and other cities to better their lives.
We met this man who worked as a cab driver. He said he'd been living in Dharavi for nearly 14 years after moving from the country to Mumbai to find work.
Very narrow. So this is where you live?
Yeah, this is my room. I'm staying here.
Oh, so your father sleeps here and you sleep here?
I sleep here. My brother also sleep here.
Oh, so three of you sleep in this one room. Where do you cook?
Yeah, I'm cooking here. Look.
Oh, so that is your kitchen, your stove?
Yeah. My kitchen, my stove, my bathroom.
Where do you get your water?
Water. Yeah, pipeline. Water pipeline also have here. Look.
Where is your wife? Where does she stay?
My wife is not here. My wife is in my village. Yeah, lots of people out of Mumbai came here to make any jobs, just like taxi driving, and lots of jobs have here.
Do you like life here better than you liked life in the country?
Not too good life, but what can I do?
You have to make money, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
More than 70% of India's population lives in the countryside, and more of those people are migrating to the cities to find work because life in the country just doesn't provide enough means to make a living.
The lack of the growth in the agricultural and the rural sector will pull this country down. So if something can be done for that triangle in the rural areas of India, which is health, employment, and education, this triangle has to be lifted. Once you lift that triangle, you will not only will you have a massively growing economy, you will have an equitable economy.
What we've seen here is that the economy of India is growing a lot. Do you see yourself part of that, being rich, or
I don't think that economy of India is growing. Because
why?
Because most of the poor people stay here only. Here population is very high.
You think that most people who are poor in India are going to stay poor?
Yeah, because there's not any job opportunity for them. Rich people going to become richer, and poor people become more poor.
Will India be able to sustain its rapid growth despite the growing gap between rich and poor? And what responsibility does India's wealthy class have in lifting those left behind?
India has come to that global party. And the real character of this country will be when they say, hang on a second, but I have to leave the party early today. I'll see you tomorrow because I have 600 million people to feed back home. And when you do that, and the other guests at the party say, oh, he left early. Normally everybody doesn't dare leave here till midnight, but this guy's left 9 o'clock. He's gone back to feed 600 million people. It's a pretty cool thing to do. Maybe we should all do that.